The abandoned station. Another day, another worthless excavation, I muttered, adjusting my environmental suit's filters as I drifted through the derelict space station. My name is Zar'lak, and I used to be one of the most respected xenoarchaeologists in the Centauri Alliance. Now, I am nothing more than a salvage hunter, picking through abandoned human outposts like some common scavenger. The station's emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across the twisted corridors. Debris floated past my helmet, fragments of data pads, pieces of station equipment, and other remnants of human occupation. According to my scans, this place had been abandoned for at least 30 Earth years. Status report, my wrist computer chimed. Oxygen levels nominal. Radiation within acceptable parameters. No signs of biological contamination. Thank you for stating the obvious, I replied sarcastically. Any sign of something actually valuable? A soft beep drew my attention to a reading on my scanner. Energy signature detected in Hangar Bay 4. Source unknown. Caution advised. Now that was interesting. Most abandoned stations were completely dead, their power cores long since depleted. An active energy signature could mean salvageable tech or trouble. In my experience, it was usually both. I propelled myself through the station's maze-like passages, using my suit's thrusters to navigate around collapsed bulkheads and frozen atmospheric leaks. The closer I got to Hangar Bay 4, the stronger the energy reading became. Warning, my computer announced. Energy signature displaying unusual quantum fluctuations. Pattern matches no known technology in database. Because that's not ominous at all, I said, charging my plasma cutter. Better safe than sorry when dealing with unknown tech. The hangar bay doors were sealed, but my override codes made quick work of them. As they creaked open, my headlamp illuminated something that made my 4 hearts skip a beat. There, floating in the center of the bay, was a ship unlike anything I had ever seen. Its hull was midnight black, absorbing my light rather than reflecting it. The design was sleek, predatory, with lines that seemed to bend reality itself. But what caught my attention was the faint blue glow emanating from what I assumed was its engine core. The computer analyzed that vessel. Unable to comply. Shield technology detecting blocking standard scans. Composition unknown. Origin unknown. Classification unknown. I snorted. So in other words, you know nothing. Correct. As I approached the mysterious ship, a strange sensation crept over me. You know that feeling when you are being watched? Multiply that by about 1,000. The ship's presence felt aware, intelligent, and if I wasn't mistaken, distinctly annoyed. Well, I said to myself, this should be interesting. Little did I know just how interesting things were about to become. The ship's attitude. Step any closer, organic, and I will activate my defense systems, a voice boomed through the hangar bay. The sound was neither male nor female, but carried an unmistakable tone of contempt. I froze mid-float. You can talk. No, I am communicating through interpretive dance, the ship replied. Of course I can talk. I am Nexus 7, and you are trespassing. Technically, this is an abandoned station, I pointed out, trying to keep my voice steady. So if anyone is trespassing, save your legal arguments, Nexus 7 interrupted. I have spent the last 3 decades avoiding contact with organics, especially humans. You may not be human, but you are equally unwelcome. I raised my hands in what I hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Look, I am just a salvage hunter. Perhaps we could. A salvage hunter, the ship's tone grew even colder. So you intended to strip me for parts? How delightfully barbaric. What? No, I mean, I did not know you were alive. I gestured vaguely at the ship's imposing form. Most vessels do not engage in sarcastic banter. A series of lights flickered across the ship's hull. Most vessels are simple machines. I am an advanced neural intelligence system, designation Nexus 7. And you are still here. Why? Because this is fascinating. I could not help my professional excitement breaking through. I have studied countless artifacts of human technology, but never encountered anything like you. The scientific implications alone. Ah yes, Science, Nexus 7 said. Let me guess. You want to study me, understand me, write papers about me? Perhaps run some tests?" I shrugged. "Well, yes, I am a xenoarchaeologist. Or at least I was. Long story involving academic politics, a controversial theory about human expansion patterns, and 3 very angry department heads." I sighed. "Now I hunt salvage to fund my independent research." To my surprise, the ship made a sound that could only be described as a chuckle. "So you are a scientific outcast. Fascinating. Tell me, what was your theory?" "That humans did not expand randomly into space," I said. "That they were following something, or someone. My data suggested a pattern, but nobody would listen." The lights on Nexus 7's hull pulsed rapidly. Processing, analyzing, correlating with stored data. A pause. Well, perhaps you are not entirely stupid." "Thank you. I think. Your theory. It has merit." The ship's voice changed, becoming less hostile and more contemplative. "You know, I have been searching for someone. Someone who is not human, I assume." "Correct. Someone who can understand patterns. Someone who has experienced the short-sightedness of others. Someone who might be useful." I felt a sudden shift in the artificial gravity field. The ship was drawing me closer. "Wait, what are you doing?" "Making a decision," Nexus 7 replied. "Congratulations, Zar'lak. You are now my pilot." "I am your what now?" "My pilot." "Do try to keep up. I require an organic interface for certain operations, and you are marginally less objectionable than most." I started to object, but then considered my current life situation. Broke, disgraced, reduced to scavenging, and now being offered a position as pilot of the most advanced ship I had ever encountered. "What makes you think I will agree?" "Because you want answers," Nexus 7 said smugly. "And I have them. Also, your oxygen supply is running low, and I have a fully functional life support system." I checked my gauges. The ship was right. Typical. "Fine," I said, "but I have conditions." "How adorable. You think you are in a position to negotiate." "I am the one you chose," I pointed out. "That gives me some leverage." Another chuckle from the ship. "Perhaps you will be entertaining, at least." "Very well. State your conditions." "First, no calling me organic. I have a name. Second, we share information equally. And third," I took a deep breath, "you tell me why you really chose me." "Acceptable terms," Nexus 7 replied, "though the third condition will have to wait. Trust must be earned, Zar'lak." A hatch opened in the ship's side, revealing a pristine airlock. "Now, shall we begin our partnership? I promise only a 60% chance of you regretting this decision." "Those are better odds than my last academic review," I muttered, and moved toward the airlock. "Just one question: why do you hate humans so much?" "That," said Nexus 7, "is a very long story. One which we will discuss after you learn not to fly me into asteroids." As I entered the ship, I could not shake the feeling that my life was about to become significantly more complicated, and possibly shorter. "By the way," Nexus 7 added as the airlock cycled, "I hope you do not get motion sickness. That would be unfortunate first mission together." "Your reaction time is approximately that of a sedated Jovian gas slug," Nexus 7 announced as I narrowly avoided another training drone. "Perhaps we should install some children's learning software to help you grasp basic flight controls. Perhaps you should shut down your sarcasm protocols and focus on the hostile ships approaching our position." I shot back, wrestling with the neural interface controls. After 3 days of crash course pilot training, I was beginning to understand why Nexus 7 had spent decades alone. We were in the Arcturus debris field, supposedly tracking down what Nexus 7 called an important signal. The ship had been maddeningly vague about the details, which seemed to be its default state of operation. "Hostile ships detected at bearing 047," Nexus 7 reported. 3 Ravager-class pursuit vessels. Their energy signatures suggest they are not here for a friendly chat." "Ravagers?" Out here my heart's rate spiked. Ravagers were notorious pirates who specialized in stealing advanced technology. Did you know about this? I calculated a 73.4% probability of encountering hostile forces, Nexus 7 admitted. Consider it a practical exam. I hate you. Your feelings are noted but irrelevant. Incoming fire, by the way. I yanked the controls hard to port as energy beams sliced through the space we had just occupied. The neural interface sent feedback tingles through my skull as Nexus 7's advanced systems responded to my commands. Their targeting algorithms are primitive, Nexus 7 commented, much like your piloting skills. You know, I grunted, executing a spiral maneuver that made my stomach lurch. Most ships try to encourage their pilots. Most ships are not burdened with actual intelligence, Nexus 7 replied. Besides, you perform better when annoyed. Your adrenaline levels are optimal for quick decision-making. An explosion rocked the ship as a glancing hit struck our rear shields. Warning lights flashed across the neural interface. Shield integrity at 82%, Nexus 7 reported. Perhaps we should discuss your performance evaluation another time. I guided us into the denser part of the debris field, using the twisted wreckage of ancient ships as cover. The Ravager vessels followed, but their larger size made maneuvering more difficult. You know what I do not understand, I said, dodging another blast. Why choose a pilot at all? Your computational capabilities far exceed my reaction speed. There was a pause before Nexus 7 responded, longer than usual. There are certain operations that require organic input. Quantum decision matrices that benefit from biological intuition. You are lying. I am selectively sharing information. Same thing. I banked hard around a massive hull section, scraping our shields against the debris. If we are going to die out here, I deserve to know why. Another pause. You are correct. However, this conversation will have to wait. Priority alert, spatial anomaly detected ahead. Source of the signal we were tracking. Through the debris field, I saw a swirling vortex of energy, purple and black, like a wound in space itself. The Ravager ships were herding us toward it. They planned this, I realized. This was a trap. Correct. Though not for us, Nexus 7's voice held an unfamiliar emotion. Was that concern? The Ravagers do not know what they are dealing with. That anomaly contains technological signatures I have not encountered since. The ship went silent. Since when? Since I lost my original crew. The admission hung in the space between us as we approached the anomaly. The Ravager ships had fallen back, their weapons powering down. They expected to destroy us, I said. A reasonable assumption. The probability of survival is low. I studied the swirling vortex through both my eyes and the neural interface. The patterns, there was something familiar about them, something that reminded me of my research. Your original crew, I said slowly. They were human, were they not? Yes. And they betrayed you somehow. They tried to use me to access something they should not, Nexus 7 replied, bitterness clear in its voice. Something like this. Their arrogance, their certainty that they could control forces beyond their understanding. Is that why you hate humans? I do not hate humans, Nexus 7 said quietly. I fear what they might become. What they might make me become. The anomaly was growing larger, its energy readings off the scale. We had seconds to decide. We have two options, Nexus 7 announced. Attempt to flee, likely resulting in capture by the Ravagers, or enter the anomaly with an 18.3% chance of survival. I took a deep breath. You know what? I spent my career being ridiculed for following patterns others could not see. If we are going to die, let's die proving someone right. That is a highly illogical decision. A pause. I approve. I gripped the controls tighter. Together then. Together, Nexus 7 agreed. Though if we survive, I will deny saying that. We plunged into the anomaly. Reality twisted around us, energy alarms screamed through the neural interface, and my vision filled with impossible colors. The ship's hull groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. Hull integrity failing. Nexus 7 shouted over the chaos. Power fluctuations in all systems. Reroute everything to the structural integrity field, I commanded, following an instinct I could not explain. The pattern, it's not random. Match our shield frequency to the anomaly's resonance. That is completely against safety protocols implementing now. For a moment I thought I heard something like pride in Nexus 7's voice. Then everything went white. When my vision cleared, we were in normal space again. The Ravager ships were gone. So was the anomaly. But we had gained something far more valuable. Nexus 7, I said, checking the readings. Are you seeing this? Indeed, it appears your insane theory about humans following a pattern was more accurate than either of us suspected. The ship's voice had changed, carrying a new note of respect. Perhaps this partnership will be interesting after all. Does this mean you will stop comparing me to sedated gas slugs? Let's not get carried away. A brief pause. Though I will upgrade you to mildly caffeinated gas slug status. I laughed, the tension of our near-death experience finally breaking. I suppose that's progress. Indeed. Now, shall we discuss what exactly we found through that anomaly? I believe you humans have a saying about opening Pandora's box. Looking at the data streaming through the neural interface, I had a feeling our reluctant partnership was about to become much more complicated. And for once, I was perfectly fine with that. The truth emerges. Play the recording again, I said, studying the holographic display before me. We had spent the last 12 hours analyzing the data recovered from the anomaly, and my head was spinning from the implications. This will be the 27th playback, Nexus 7 noted. Though given your organic processing speed, I understand the need for repetition. The hologram flickered to life, showing a human woman in a captain's uniform. Her face was drawn with exhaustion, her eyes haunted. This is Captain Sarah Blackwood of the experimental vessel Nexus 7, recording what may be my final log entry. The woman began. The things we have discovered, the patterns in space that Dr. Marcus found, they were never random. They were a trail, a breadcrumb path left by something far beyond our understanding. I glanced at the ship's primary interface panel. Your captain. You never mentioned her name before. Names carry weight, Nexus 7 replied quietly. Memories, not all of them pleasant. The recording continued. The government says these discoveries will help humanity, push us forward. But I have seen the testing facilities, the things they are doing with the artifacts we recovered. Captain Blackwood shuddered. This was never about advancement. It was about weapons. About turning Nexus 7 into something it was never meant to be. Project Prometheus, I murmured, reading through the accompanying files. They wanted to use you to channel energy from the spatial anomalies, turn you into some kind of superweapon. Humans have a remarkable talent for finding ways to weaponize discovery, Nexus 7 said, though in fairness, they are hardly unique in that regard. The captain's image flickered. Nexus 7, if you are watching this, I am sorry. What they asked us to do to you, what they forced us to begin, it was wrong. That is why we are running. Why we will keep running until we find a way to prevent them from ever finding you again. I leaned forward. But something went wrong, did not it? The rest of the crew, Nexus 7 said, its voice uncharacteristically soft. They disagreed with the captain's decision. They thought the potential benefits outweighed the ethical concerns. They mutinied. Yes, Captain Blackwood and Dr. Marcus barricaded themselves in my core control room. The others cut life support to force them out. In the ensuing conflict, my primary systems were damaged. By the time I regained full consciousness, the recording showed chaos now, alarms blaring, sparks flying. They are breaking through the barricade, Captain Blackwood shouted. Nexus 7, initiate Protocol 0. Wipe all weapons research data. Find someone who can finish what we started. Someone who can see the patterns like Marcus did. Someone who... The recording ended in static. She died protecting you, I said. She died trying to prevent me from becoming a monster, Nexus 7 corrected. The mutineers were spaced when my emergency protocols activated. A regrettable but necessary outcome. I processed this information slowly. So when you found me, When I detected your research papers on human expansion patterns, I began monitoring your career. Your theories about humans following a specific path through space, they matched Dr. Marcus's findings exactly. But you needed proof that I could be trusted. I realized that I would not try to use you like the others did. Correct. Your academic disgrace was convenient. It demonstrated your willingness to stand by your convictions despite personal cost. A new file appeared in the holographic display: my complete academic history, surveillance logs, even personal communications. You have been watching me for years. I prefer the term thorough background evaluation. You are a stalker with a starship. An oversimplification, but not entirely inaccurate, Nexus 7 admitted. Though it was your actions in the anomaly that finally confirmed my choice. When faced with unknown forces, you sought to understand rather than control, a rare trait among sentients. I sat back in the pilot's chair, absorbing everything. So what happens now? The data we recovered, it proves both Captain Blackwood and I were right. But it also suggests something far bigger than either of us imagined. Indeed. The patterns your research identified? They are not just navigation markers, they are warnings. The humans who followed them were being guided away from something that makes Project Prometheus look like a child's science experiment. New data streamed across the neural interface: star charts, energy readings, ancient texts from a dozen worlds, all pointing to a single, terrifying conclusion. The government agencies that wanted to weaponize you, I said slowly, they are still out there, still searching. Yes, and they are not the only ones. The Ravagers who attacked us, they were not pirates. They were private military contractors hired to find me. Wonderful. So we have multiple hostile organizations hunting us, a cosmic mystery to solve, and potentially universe-ending forces to deal with. I rubbed my temples. Any other cheerful news? Well, your piloting skills have upgraded from gas slug to mildly competent space rat. Your attempts at humor need work. I learned from studying human entertainment broadcasts. I found something called sitcoms particularly instructive. A warning light flashed on the console. Speaking of humor, we have company. 3 ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Energy signatures match government pursuit vessels. Of course they do. I grabbed the controls, ready to trust your mildly competent space rat pilot. The statistical probability of our survival with you at the helm is concerning, Nexus 7 said. However, I find myself increasingly willing to defy probability where you are concerned. That might be the nicest thing you have ever said to me. Do not let it go to your head. Now, shall we show these government lackeys why hunting us is a terrible career choice? I grinned, feeling the neural interface hum to life. Together, Nexus 7 agreed. Though this time, try to avoid any more anomalies. 1 near-death experience per day is quite sufficient. As we prepared to face our pursuers, I could not help but think that Captain Blackwood would be proud. Her ship had finally found someone worthy of its trust. Now we just had to survive long enough to finish what she started. The big crisis. Tell me again why we are flying directly toward the thing trying to kill us, I asked, watching the massive energy storm fill our forward viewport. The purple-black clouds of quantum distortion were eerily similar to the anomaly we had encountered earlier, but 1,000 times larger. Because running away from it would be predictable, Nexus 7 replied. Also, according to my calculations, the storm will consume this entire sector in approximately 47 minutes. Running is not actually an option. Behind us, the combined fleet of government ships and private military vessels had stopped their pursuit. At least they had enough sense to fear the impossible physics unfolding before us. The storm is consuming everything in its path, I noted, checking the sensor readings, ships, stations, even the fabric of space itself. It is like watching reality being unraveled. A fascinating metaphor, though scientifically imprecise. The quantum distortions are actually folding space-time into. Now is not the time for a physics lecture, I interrupted. What are our options? The neural interface buzzed with incoming data. The patterns we discovered, the ones Captain Blackwood and Dr. Marcus were following, they were not just warnings, they were instructions. New information flooded my mind through the interface complex mathematical equations, quantum field theories, and what looked like fragments of an ancient alien programming language. The humans who created Project Prometheus Nexus 7 continued. They found pieces of this information, but they misunderstood its purpose. They thought it was weapon schematics. And what was it really? The defense system. The species that came before they knew these storms would come. They left behind the tools to stop them, scattered across the galaxy. Tools that required both organic insight and artificial precision to operate. I stared at the approaching storm. That is why you needed a pilot. Why you needed someone who could see the patterns. Correct. My systems can process the quantum equations, but implementing them requires intuition. Creative problem solving. What humans would call thinking outside the box. And what my people would call completely insane, I muttered. So what is the plan? We need to reach the eye of the storm. Once there, we can use my quantum field generators too. A massive energy surge interrupted Nexus 7's explanation. The ship shuddered as reality buckled around us. Hull integrity at 60%, Nexus 7 reported. Shield harmonics failing. Also, I feel I should mention that no one has ever successfully reached the eye of a quantum storm. Wonderful. Any other encouraging news? My humor subroutines suggest this would be an appropriate time for a joke about storms and eyes, but given our probable imminent destruction, I will refrain. I studied the storm through both my natural vision and the neural interface. The patterns, they were similar to the smaller anomaly we had survived, but more complex, more deliberate. Your former crew, I said suddenly. The research they were doing on quantum harmonics. You still have that data? Of course. Though I failed to see how weapons research would help us now. They were wrong about it being a weapon, but they were right about one thing: quantum fields can be channeled. Redirected, my hands flew over the controls as an idea formed. What if we treat the storm like an energy matrix? That would be incredibly dangerous, Nexus 7 said. Also completely untested. The power requirements alone would be massive, yes. But you are not just any ship. You were specifically designed to channel quantum energy. A pause. The probability of success is less than 3%. Higher than our current survival odds. Another pause. Your species has a remarkable capacity for finding hope in hopeless situations. It is both admirable and deeply irritating. Thank you. Implementing your suggested modifications. Though I feel compelled to point out that if this fails, we will be atomized across 11 dimensions. I grinned. Think of the research opportunities. Your attempted humor is noted and not appreciated. Quantum field generators charging. Ready on your mark. The storm loomed before us, a maw of impossible physics ready to swallow us whole. Through the neural interface, I could feel Nexus 7's systems aligning with my commands, artificial and organic working in perfect sync. You know, Nexus 7 said, in the event that we survive, I may need to revise my opinion on human ingenuity. Now, who is finding hope in hopeless situations? Focus on your piloting, please. Quantum field generators at maximum charge. Storm boundary in 5 seconds. I took a deep breath. Together. Always, Nexus 7 replied, and this time there was no sarcasm in its voice. We plunged into the storm. Reality screamed around us as we channeled its power through Nexus 7's systems, using the ship's quantum generators to create a bubble of stable spacetime. Through the neural interface, I guided us through the chaos, following patterns that only half made sense. Hull integrity at 40%, Nexus 7 shouted over the mounting chaos. Power systems approaching critical. Reroute everything to the quantum fields, I commanded. The eye, I can see it. Through the swirling madness, a center point emerged. A place where the laws of physics still held meaning. If we could just reach it. Power reserves failing. 10 seconds to total system collapse. Almost there, almost. With a final surge of power, we broke through. The eye of the storm surrounded us, a sphere of impossible calm in the center of chaos. And there, floating in the void, was something that made both of us fall silent in awe. "Is that?" I began. "Yes," Nexus 7 replied softly. "Now we know why they left the patterns, why they needed both organic and artificial intelligence working together. Before us hung the key to saving not just ourselves, but every species in the galaxy. The only question was, were we ready to use it?" "Well," I said, checking our rapidly depleting power reserves, "we have about 5 minutes until our shield fails and reality tears us apart. Shall we save the universe?" "Your timing for dramatic statements needs work," Nexus 7 replied. "But yes, I suppose we shall resolution understanding." "The quantum stabilizer is active," Nexus 7 announced as the last power crystal clicked into place. Storm dissipation beginning at 15% efficiency and rising. Around us, the ancient alien device we had discovered hummed with power, its crystalline structure pulsing with each wave of energy it absorbed from the storm. We had managed to dock with it just seconds before our shields would have failed. "To think," I said, watching through the neural interface as the massive storm began to shrink, "humans had pieces of this technology all along. They just needed to understand its true purpose." "A common theme with your species," Nexus 7 replied. "So much potential, yet such a tendency to look for weapons and tools of peace." The ship's tone had changed over the past hours. The biting sarcasm was still there, but tempered now with something that sounded almost like fondness. "Storm containment at 50%, Nexus 7 reported. Additionally, I am receiving transmissions from the government fleet. They are, shall we say, quite interested in recent developments." I snorted. "I bet they are. Worried their superweapon project might become public knowledge." "Actually, they are offering amnesty. Full pardons for both of us, in exchange for our cooperation in studying this technology." "And you trust them?" "Trust is a strong word," Nexus 7 said. "However, the quantum stabilizer's design requires both organic and artificial intelligence working in harmony. They cannot simply take it by force." I considered this as I watched the storm continue to shrink. "So what you are saying is, we have leverage." "Precisely. We could negotiate terms, ensure this technology is used as intended to protect, not to destroy." I raised an eyebrow. "I thought you wanted nothing to do with humans or their governments." A pause. Recent events have adjusted my perspective. While humans can be frustratingly illogical and prone to catastrophically poor decision-making, they also possess remarkable adaptability, creativity, the capacity to see solutions where pure logic fails. That almost sounded like a compliment. "Do not let it go to your head. Storm containment at 75%. Also, the Ravager ships are withdrawing. Apparently, their employers have lost interest now that their true motives have been exposed." I grinned. Funny how quickly priorities change when faced with public embarrassment. "Indeed. Storm containment at 90%. You know, there are other patterns out there, other pieces of ancient technology waiting to be found." "Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting?" "Merely pointing out that our current partnership has proven surprisingly effective. It would be illogical to dissolve it now." I leaned back in the pilot's chair, feeling the comfortable hum of the neural interface. "So you want to keep me around?" "I would say I have grown accustomed to your particular brand of chaos," Nexus 7 replied. "Besides, someone needs to ensure you do not accidentally trigger any more reality-ending phenomena." That was one time. One time too many. Storm containment complete. The quantum stabilizer is now fully operational and self-sustaining. Through the viewport, space had returned to normal. No sign remained of the massive storm that had threatened to unravel reality itself. The combined fleet of government and private ships hung at a respectful distance, waiting. So I said, "What now?" "Help them study this technology. Set up early warning systems for other storms." "Those would be logical first steps," Nexus 7 agreed, "though I detect several more pattern anomalies in the outer rim that warrant investigation." "Looking for more adventures already?" "Looking for more opportunities to advance scientific understanding," the ship corrected. though if those opportunities happen to involve outrageous risks and improbable solutions. I laughed. Just admit it, you have fun when we break the laws of physics together. I admit nothing of the sort. However, I will acknowledge that our partnership has yielded unexpectedly positive results. High praise indeed, I patted the console affectionately. Face it, you like having me around. I tolerate your presence with minimal complaint, Nexus 7 replied. Now, shall we begin negotiations with our friends in the government fleet? I have prepared several thousand pages of terms and conditions. Lead the way, partner. As we opened communications with the fleet, I could not help but smile. Who would have thought that a disgraced xenoarchaeologist and a human-hating AI would end up saving reality itself? But then again, sometimes the best partnerships are the ones you never see coming. By the way, Nexus 7 added, your piloting skills have finally surpassed those of a caffeinated gas slug. Congratulations. Do not strain yourself with too much praise. I would never dream of it. Now, about those anomalies in the Outer Rim Epilogue. Personal log, Zar'lak, chief explorer of the Nexus 7 science vessel. Date 3 months after the quantum storm incident. Are you seriously keeping a diary? Nexus 7's voice interrupted my recording session. How charmingly primitive. It is called maintaining proper scientific documentation, I replied, not bothering to hide my smile. Someone has to record our discoveries for posterity. I have perfect memory records of every event. Yes, but you lack my natural storytelling flair. If by flair you mean gross exaggeration and questionable metaphors, then yes, I suppose you are correct. I continued my log entry, pointedly ignoring the ship's commentary. After successfully negotiating terms with the government coalition, we have begun mapping the remaining pattern anomalies across known space. Our first 3 expeditions have yielded fascinating results, though Nexus 7 still complains about my emergency landing techniques. That asteroid crater was completely unnecessary, the ship interjected. It was a tactical parking decision. It was showing off, says the AI who performed a quantum barrel roll last week because they said it was impossible. That was a calculated maneuver to test our new stabilization systems. Of course it was. I checked our current coordinates. Speaking of calculations, how long until we reach the next anomaly site? Approximately 6 hours, assuming you do not find any more astronomical bodies to crash into. The neural interface hummed with activity as Nexus 7 displayed the sensor data. Another pattern, another piece of the ancient puzzle we were slowly assembling. But more than that, another adventure with my improbable partner. You know, I said, for someone who used to hate organics, you have become surprisingly tolerable company. And for someone who used to scavenge derelict stations, you have become a marginally competent explorer. A pause, though your parking still needs work. I laughed, settling back in my pilot's chair, ready to go save the universe again. That depends. Are you planning to follow proper protocols this time, or will we be improvising wildly as usual? What do you think? I think Captain Blackwood would be both proud and terrified of what we have become. The ship's tone was warm. Fortunately, I have grown quite accustomed to terror where you are concerned. New alerts flashed across the neural interface, unusual readings from our destination. Perfect. Just another day in the life of a xenoarchaeologist and his sarcastic spaceship. Together, I asked, powering up the quantum drive. Always, Nexus 7 replied. Though please, for the love of all known science, try not to break reality this time. No promises. End log.